I want to talk about buck scrapes and mock scrapes, whatever it might be. There's a really big myth when it comes to scrapes out there in general. And I think that's partly to waste some of your hunting dollars and suck those out. We'll talk about that down here, number 5, but I want to talk about some mock scrapes. And you know what I really wanted to do is, a lot of you don't know, we have these videos, and I mentioned Dylan, he's behind the lens, and he's the one editing, but Dylan has to watch all of this. He watches me put this together, has to listen to my voice, unfortunately, and then he has to go home and edit these videos and listen to me over and over again while he's piecing it together. So, hey, Dylan, why don't you come over here? And you've been a big part of the business since 2016, and a full-time employee at one time.
Want me in there?
Yeah, I want you in here, because how many mock scrapes have we put out together? I mean, that's one thing we talk about. And,
a lot.
yeah, on different lands, and so I'm going to make you talk about some of this stuff too. We can just kind of skip back and forth, but it's been fun working with Dylan. A lot of people don't realize, we've shot over 600 videos together. We'll hit 208 this year. We've been on track. So Dylan, how many states have you put my videos together in?
Everyone I've been in, I've done a video or two in.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of late nights trying to crank out videos and then get them uploaded before the morning.
Yeah.
These videos aren't put together a long ways ahead of time because that's just not what our schedule allows. So we get together, we film as many as we can, and then I have to piece those together. So it's not like I sit down 2 weeks ahead of time to put these together. So.
Yeah, and we're on our 4th one today.
Yeah.
You're here at noon, and then we have a 3 o'clock deadline because Dylan's going to film up with Diane in the blind tonight, and I think I'm going to sit in the corner in the back. And Diane told me she can't know that I'm there. I just have to hide in the background. But anyways, we put a lot of scrapes together, and I think we learned a lot of scrapisms between the two of us. And I think I'll talk about the first one here. And we have some, and I'll talk about this, the ingredients of how we make the mock scrapes. We're just talking buck scrapes in general. What we see is with these scrapes, especially the way we make the hanging scrapes, they're hitting them 365 days a year. And so, but there's some time frames in here. I would say, what do you think the number one time is of the year? I can't have an idea, but what's your thought on the number one time that they're not using them?
I would say, honestly, peak rut is when they're kind of bypassing them. I wouldn't say they're avoiding them, but I don't think it's on their mind.
Yeah, it's almost like sometimes you see them more hitting it at night.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of, and I would say springtime, I think there's a lot of change then.
Yep.
We get our cameras out in June, and we work on the scrapes. We've set up a lot in June and July.
Absolutely.
And they hit them within a week or two, right then. So in that 365-degree timeline, we see them using during the winter. In fact, a lot of the winter trails and snow trails go right under them. Springtime, the deer are moving around. Summertime, they start using them a lot more. All the way through September, October, heavy use. And then like Dylan said, when you get into the rut, they're really dropping off. And that's kind of almost when you can tell there's a peak rut when they're not using them. And what's pretty cool is, I've told a lot of people lately online, is when the second rut's about to begin, when bucks start scraping and hitting the scrapes again.
Absolutely.
And when the second rut's in, when they're not hitting the scrapes right after. So we're kind of watching that on the trail cameras right now. So that's kind of the timeline. What do you think about, you saw me preach as far as the number. I always say 1 per stand. What do you think about that?
I think we've all heard Jeff's story about the property with 500 scrapes on it.
Yeah, on 200 acres. 500 on 200 acres.
So, that's obviously too much. So, you think about it, and the way I kind of rationalize it in my head is you have a buck that's, let's say he's got a half hour to get to his next area that he wants to scent check, right?
Yeah.
In between those spots. Is he going to hit 40 scrapes on the way there? No, he only has a half hour. He might hit 3 on the way there, and he stops and he sniffs, and then he moves on to the next one. So you think about that, and every scrape you have then is lessened in value. So if you have 2 scrapes on the way in between, and each one of those is at a tree stand, then it's hitting those in an area that you want him to hit those in.
Yeah,
so
and that's
kind of the way I rationalize.
And it's kind of like too, if you have, I've seen people with 5 or 6 scrapes, licking branches hanging down. Well, they only have time to hit one. Again, they have something. They're on a mission. They're going to a food source, whatever it is. So if you have too many, they're spreading out the scent, and so they're not concentrating all the scent on one vine. Someone told me today, I think it was, on Facebook, they made a comment that they like putting 2 licking branches in one spot in case one breaks. And I can see that. I can see the thought on that. Yeah, they have broke. We have one and it's too high right now because you can just tie another one on most of the time because you're hunting near them. These are all by stand locations.
Yep.
So we can tie one on. One was flipped up. We flipped it down this year. But one broke off way up high. I don't even know how it broke off. That was one that was like 1.25 inches in diameter.
Yep.
And it broke off. So one of the things we noticed that's pretty cool is, again, going back to that timeline, we're seeing bucks use these scrapes every day. Does and fawns using these scrapes every single day. And that's a lot different than a rub. Some of the best rubs out in the woods, they're used one time, and then a buck never checks it again. And so the idea of some of the horizontal rubs or rubs you can place out in the middle of a food plot, well, the deer are already going to the food plot, so of course they're going to rub whatever's out there. But what does that mean in defining the use and defining the movement? And that kind of leads into number 4.
Deer travel, yeah. So I mean, this is another point that it seems like I reiterate everything that these people have probably heard you say over the years, but
we
box
see it.
scrapes on your land aren't going to bring more deer to your land. They're going to define where those deer stop on your land or travel on your land. So I think that they can really strengthen a travel corridor or a trail, but they aren't going to bring more deer onto your property. So that's what
Definitely.
It's about, is moving a deer 10 yards out of the way to come to a spot that you want that deer to be. So that's kind of the way that I look at it, is in defining, deer travel.
And I see that even with natural scrapes.
Yeah.
It might not be that they're going and hitting the scrape, but they're traveling nearby. Diane had those giants, last Tuesday or whatever, and they were going right up to our old Diego scrape stand that's probably still, there's apple tree branches that they're scraping under right there. They might not have gone to the scrape, but they're going really, really close.
Absolutely.
And that's part of their travel.
Yeah, it just makes that a part of their movement and more comfortable to be in that area.
And this is kind of going back, number 5 here, the number 1 buck scrape myth. This could apply to any scrape out there. And Dylan, how many trail cam video scrapes do you think you've looked through? I mean, has it been 1,000 or 2,000 or?
Well over 1,000. I don't even know. I mean, I have honestly terabytes of trail cam footage.
Yeah,
and I would
of them
say
hitting
a
scrapes.
lot of those are on scrapes. So I see a lot of bucks hitting scrapes.
Yeah, and that's on over time, 30 scrapes or mock scrapes on few different parcels, 35, 40, whatever it is, even out on public land, and scrape usage and trail cameras on it. We've seen a lot of scrape use, and so we get to watch this stuff. And Dylan, again, I mean, he's the one that probably watches. I watched the trail cam video one time, and that's pretty cool. We save it, and then Dylan watches it over and over because he's adding it to future clips, future videos, multiple videos.
Yep.
We have our favorites. We both,
Absolutely.
They're all the good ones, the big bucks, and where they're really working them.
Yep.
But the number 1 myth is that, and this is going back to scent drippers and everything else, that bucks are actually hitting these scrapes because of urine. They're not coming into the urine. How many of all those hundreds of hours of footage and over 1,000, 2,000 videos that you've seen, do deer come in and sniff the dirt?
I've seen a few, and they stick out because there have only been a few that I've seen.
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
Yeah, I mean, most of them come in, and the first thing they do is they sniff the vine, and then they start rubbing their glands on it.
And that's what we see. And you can see them. It's kind of cool because like with the cell cam or video, but you see them almost eyeing that up in the background. That's that first cell cam picture. And if we have it on a 5-shot burst, it's like you get it here, then you get it here, here. And the last one, they're actually at the licking branch. And it's like they're eyeing that branch from 30 feet back. They're going right to it. They smell it. They rub their glands on it. And the last act is actually, if they're aggressive, and that's really, how often are they actually working the scrape?
It's not a
like
lot.
The actual,
I would say less than 10%, honestly, that you actually see them throwing dirt and urinating on themselves.
And that's really mostly October, November.
Yep.
And a little bit
Absolutely.
December for the second rut. And that's off and on, because like we said, during the rut, they're just bypassing.
No,
They might be traveling in the area,
Yep.
but they're.
They might walk right under it, but they don't even stop to sniff it sometimes.
And we've had that too. I remember the split brow buck. Remember that beautiful picture where the sun coming down on him last year with Diane? He was going towards the scrape, but it could have been he just walked right by.
Yep.
We get a lot of them that would walk by on that bench.
Absolutely.
And wouldn't go to it. So number 1 buck mock scrape myth is that you need some kind of urine. And I know I'll probably never have a scent lure sponsorship. I just don't believe in it. The best form of scent that you can have is the accumulation of preorbital gland scent on the licking branch itself, naturally applied by deer. And not only bucks, but does and fawns that come by. And that's why some of the specifics. You see this tree up here. I'm not a good artist, but I wanted to illustrate this licking vine here. That's actually a squirrel, that black blob. You can see one ear, maybe two, and it's a squirrel, I think. But branch up here, you want that licking branch right here to be about 5 feet long. You want it hanging approximately 3 feet off the ground, and that's so fawns can participate, does, big bucks, little bucks, whatever it might be. And then the rope up here that you let that branch freely swing on could be an inch, could be the Diego scrape stand. We had to throw a rope up over that branch. It was probably 10, 12 feet up.
Yep.
And you want the branch to be heavy enough. You want it to be 3/4 inch, 1 inch in diameter. That way it'll last a lot longer. It's over a scrape area. We'll make a 3-foot pad, rake it open with a rake. We pee in it sometimes just to get it started. Maybe that smells natural or something when it first starts. They can smell it. Hey, there's something over there 30 yards away, and then they go. And what do though? They don't go and sniff it. They actually go right to the licking branch. It's crazy how some of those bucks, we've never had them a picture or a video at a scrape, and they walk to it like they own it and start working.
Oh yeah, yep. It's just such a natural thing for them, I think.
Yeah, and the distance, you want it at least 6 feet away from a tree, and that's so a buck can spin all the way around. We've had them where it's this far away. I can remember one I made about 7, 8 years ago, and it was just too close to the tree. You know, they don't have much room. They're not going to work at it like a rub, and so you really want that buck to be able to be, to freely swing around there. We like using grapevines, and I've had people who have some great success using grapevines up north where they don't even have grapevines.
Right.
I like hemlock branches can be great. Aspen branches are great, but they don't last as long. Poplar or something. Good trees that deer rub regularly work great. A white oak branch can be really good. That's pretty natural. Jack pine is a great rubbing tree and scraping tree up in northern areas. So kind of use your imagination. Maybe try a grapevine if you have some at home and go up. Can you think of anything else on the mock scrape specifics? Dylan kind of challenged me, was that 3 years ago on that one that broke? We found a vine nearby and it was about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, and I'm like, they're not gonna, that's on the big side. And Dylan's like, just use it, I think it'll work, and sure enough.
It was one of our hottest for a while.
Yeah, it was.
I'm really surprised that it broke, and we still don't know the culprit because all of a sudden it was just swinging there, so it must have ran through.
Yeah, and it was like,
kept running.
It broke at like 8 feet up, 9 feet up, so we can't even like replace it right now.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer on that one.
Yep.
But so even using a little bit larger, something I was wondering lately, do you think it's good when it has a little bend in it or something as opposed to something straight? Or?
I really like when I'm picking out a vine to cut down, I look for ones that are split and have a lot of gnarly stuff on them because I think that's more area for scent to get trapped, and it's also more tantalizing to a buck. You know, when you see a
More
natural
natural
scrape in the woods, it's typically a branch bent over with a bunch of smaller branches off of it. So I think about that.
Do you remember the one back on Vicky's that we hunted up top? They hit that one right away, and we ran a line between some small trees. So when they worked that licking branch, for one, it was kind of coming out of the branches, but two, it would shake the branches and leaves up above, and I bet you that sound, they love that sound. They're
conditioned to hear that. They hear that rustling every time they do that. So I think that just makes it even more natural for them when they hear that.
And we've had some, like the one over here by where I shot Kermit.
Yep.
That thing's hanging off. I mean, there might only be 6 inches of rope. I mean, I was able just to stand and tie it up, and we find that works pretty well too. Because again, it goes back to, I think they think it's just a broken branch or something, a broken vine hanging down.
Definitely.
So, but again, going back to, we use rope, but natural's best. You don't need deer urine. And I'm hoping, Dylan, that you can watch these videos for years to come and put them together. I feel like we have a good team putting these out. And,
Definitely.
And I might call you out a few other times
That
here and
sounds
come
good.
to these videos.
I'm definitely more comfortable back there, but hey, this has been a treat. Thanks for letting me.
He actually works with the Breaking Point TV. They have a YouTube channel, incredibly high quality hunting videos, great channel, and then Black Stamp Media. So Dylan, you work for a lot of hunting industry companies, and we work for a lot of overlapping companies too. So that's been pretty cool too. And but yeah, we'll this, always think about that with a mock scrape, whether you're making it or you're trying to enhance a scrape that's out there. We do find they hit the hanging branches right directly over a deer trail. I should have drawn a deer trail in there. I'm a terrible artist, like I said, but let's say that deer trail is coming through here. That's how that would be set up. And if we had a camera, we'd have that camera up here, usually pointed down through there, and we'd have that strapped or on a hanger. But we'd want that camera on a tree that's wider than the camera. We like having the profile hidden a little bit, and definitely at least 6 feet off the ground. We find you don't have to put an 8 or 9 or anything like that, but at least 6 feet off the ground, and that seems to be the setup. And we have a camera on every mock scrape.
Yeah, I would say,
absolutely.
There's not a point to have a mock scrape without a camera on it.
We have one in a hidden corner of a food plot. I actually shot a buck in Coon Valley, a big one that we were after, and he was going down right in front of the camera. I did the same thing in 2014 or 15 in the same spot.
Yep.
And so it's kind of one we shoot at, but almost all of our mock scrapes, say 95%, are in front of bow stands, so we can actually get a shot. Whether you're making one this year, whether you're finding one and trying to enhance it, you don't need urine. It's a big myth out there. Focus on the preorbital gland and how those deer can apply it. Make sure that does, fawns, and bucks can participate. Put it right over a trail, and you're going to find that 365-degree use. And we're going to keep bringing them to you, and we like studying this. We learn things about scrapes every single year, and the more we use them in different states and locations and applications. And unfortunately, Dylan will have to listen to this all again. His wife, Jara, has to listen to this all again. And I appreciate you, Dylan, and appreciate your input on this mock scrape video. And we'll have more to come with both of us at some point, too.
Now, as we transition into habitat season, I hope you've had a chance to check out my web class, How to Design Your Whitetail Parcel. It's on my website, whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. I have a link in the description, and I hope you can find it, check it out, and enjoy it this year.